The hallway was cold, silent, and smelled of metal. Ray Carter walked slowly, holding a small repair kit in his hand. He was just a maintenance man, nothing special. But today, he was being sent to Sub-Level 7, a place most people refuse to go. Ray didn't ask questions. He followed the orders. But even he had heard the stories about what was locked away down there, about the creature they called Nemesia, about the thing they called a monster. Some said she was over 8 feet tall. Others said her eyes could burn through steel. They all agreed on one thing: she had no heart, no soul. She was dangerous, evil, and must never be let out. Ray entered the elevator. The door closed behind him with a heavy clang. He pressed the button for Sub-Level 7. The lights flickered as the elevator dropped lower and lower. His stomach turned. Was it fear? He wasn't sure. He didn't believe in ghosts or monsters. But still, his hands were shaking when the elevator stopped. A loud beep echoed. The door slid open. The hallway was darker here. The lights buzzed overhead, some blinking like dying stars. He stepped out. A voice came from a speaker. Ray Carter authorized maintenance for glass interface repair, room 7G. He followed the path, each step louder than the last. Then he saw it, a thick glass wall behind it. Something moved. He froze. There she was, the monster everyone talked about. But she didn't look like a monster. She looked like a girl, an alien, yes, tall, with pale skin, glowing red eyes, and long silver hair that floated like mist. But her face wasn't angry or cruel. It was calm, sad even. She sat in the center of the chamber, chained by her wrists and ankles. Her eyes lifted slowly and locked onto his. Ray's breath caught in his throat. His hand trembled near his toolkit. He looked around. No guards, no scientists, just him and her. He moved toward the panel on the wall. A crack had formed in the glass's interface, probably from pressure or time. He crouched down to inspect it. Then he heard a soft voice. "You're not afraid of me?" His head snapped up. She had spoken, clear English, calm voice, but with a hint of surprise. Ray didn't answer right away. He stood up slowly. "You can talk?" he asked. Her lips moved slightly, almost a smile. "I can think. I can speak. I can feel," she said. "But no one has spoken to me in 63 days. Ray blinked. 63 days? She nodded. "They only come to feed me through tubes," she said. "No one speaks. No one looks." Ray looked into her eyes again. They were red, yes, glowing even, but behind that, there was something else, pain, maybe, or loneliness. "Just here to fix the panel," he said, unsure of what else to say. She tilted her head. "And after that, will you forget me too?" Ray didn't know what to answer. He had expected screams, rage, violence, not this. He worked in silence, trying to focus, but he could feel her eyes watching him. Then she said, "Do they still call me a monster?" Ray stopped. He hesitated, then answered honestly. "Yes," he said. "That's what they say." She looked away. "They feared my strength, so they named me a threat," she said. "But I only fought because I was ordered to." Ray frowned. "Ordered by who?" She looked up again. "My own people," she said. "I disobeyed once. I refused to burn a village. So they gave me to your kind as a gift." Ray felt cold all over. He didn't know what was true anymore. But this didn't feel like a monster's story. Suddenly, the room lights flickered. A loud buzz came from the panel. Then the glass cage door unlocked. Ray's heart jumped. What the hell? She stood slowly. Her chains clinked. But she didn't move toward him. She just looked at the door and whispered, "I'm not going to hurt you, Ray." He hadn't told her his name. That chilled him. "How do you know me?" he asked, voice shaking. She smiled faintly. "I listen," she said. "Even when no one talks to me, I hear everything." Ray didn't run. He didn't press the alarm. He didn't raise his tool to defend himself. Instead, he asked, "What do you want?" She stepped back, raised her chained hands. "To be seen," she whispered. Not feared. Ray looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, he wondered, what if they had locked up the wrong one? Ray couldn't sleep that night. He kept thinking about her Nemesia, the so-called monster in the glass cage who spoke softly and looked at him not with hate, but with sadness. He replayed her words in his mind, to be seen, not feared. He had seen many aliens during the war, but none like her. The next morning, Ray went back to the control room. He checked the report logs from the day before. The system claimed there was no error. The cage door had never unlocked. But Ray knew what he saw. The door did unlock, and she never escaped. She didn't attack. She just stood there and told him. She wanted to be seen. Ray sat in his small bunk room. He thought he felt torn. Everyone told him Nemesia was dangerous. But the girl in chains? She didn't look like a killer that evening. Ray sneaked a small bag of fruit down to sub-level 7. The guards at the elevator didn't stop him. He was maintenance after all. Who would question a man fixing lights and wires? When he reached the chamber, he looked through the glass. She was there, sitting still, like always. Her head turned when she saw him. "You came back," she said, her voice calm, almost gentle. Ray nodded slowly. "I brought you something," he said, holding up the bag. "They never feed you real food?" She shook her head. "Only liquid nutrition, through tubes in the wall." He looked around, then carefully opened a small maintenance hatch connected to the food pipe. He slid a piece of fruit in. A moment later, a soft sound came from inside. Her salve of fruit dropped into her tray. She walked to it slowly, picked up the small orange, and stared at it then. She smiled. It wasn't fake or forced. It was small and real. "Thank you," she said. "I haven't tasted anything sweet in months." Ray watched her eat silently. Her movements were controlled. Not like a beast or prisoner. More like someone trying not to scare him. He leaned closer to the glass. "Can I ask you something?" She nodded. "You said you didn't want to fight," he said. "But they say you killed people." "A lot of people." Nemesia looked away. "I defended myself," she said. "I was captured during a battle, wounded and alone. They beat me, locked me in a cage on your warship." Ray's eyes widened. "You were already a prisoner when you came to Earth?" She nodded. "But I healed faster than they expected," she said. "One night a guard tried to hurt me. I fought back, others joined in. I didn't kill out of hate, I killed to stay alive." Ray felt a lump in his throat. He had read the reports. Alien female prisoner escaped and slaughtered 4 men. But the report never mentioned why she fought. Only that she did, she continued. "I didn't escape," she said. "They captured me again, used tranquilizers. After that, they moved me here, called me dangerous, a weapon." Ray felt cold. "So they erased your side of the story." She looked at him again. "You're the first one who asked." Silence filled the room for a while. Only the quiet hum of machines could be heard. Finally, Ray whispered, "They're going to kill you. You know." Her body didn't move, but her eyes closed slowly. "I know," she said. "They fear what they don't understand." Ray leaned closer. "Then why don't you try to escape?" She looked up. "Because I'd rather die seen than live as a monster." Those words hit Ray harder than anything he had heard in years. Suddenly, the overhead lights flickered again. A signal alert blinked on Ray's device security, checking for unauthorized access. "I have to go," he whispered. She nodded. "Thank you for bringing the fruit," she said softly. "And thank you for listening." Ray stepped back. Before he turned, she said something he didn't expect. "You have kind eyes," she said. "Not many humans do." He didn't know how to reply, so he just left, but his heart was heavy. That night, Ray opened a secret folder on his personal data pad. He started writing, not just notes. A full record of her words, her story, her truth. If no one else would speak for her, maybe he could, and for the first time, Ray Carter felt like he wasn't just fixing wires anymore. He was about to fix a broken lie. A lie that caged an innocent soul. A girl the world feared, but maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the monster at all. *. The next few nights, Ray kept returning to Sublevel 7. Each visit was short, quiet, but full of strange new understanding. He would bring something small, an apple, a storybook, a tiny flashlight, and slide it through the feeding tube hatch, and in return, Nemesia would speak, not like a prisoner begging to be free, but like a soul slowly learning to trust again. On the fourth night, Ray brought something different. It was an old star map, printed on thin plastic, the kind used in school. Before the war, he slid it through the hatch and waited. She picked it up, and for the first time, she smiled before he spoke. "Do you remember any of these?" Ray asked, pointing to the constellations. Her eyes softened. She ran her fingers across the map, then whispered, "Yes." Ray leaned closer to the glass. "Tell me," he said. Nemesia knelt down, her long silver hair sliding over her shoulders. Her fingers tapped gently on the map. "This one," she said, pointing to a cluster of stars. "We called it the Nest of Light." Ray looked at it. "To us, that's the Swan constellation." She smiled faintly. "My mother used to tell me that our ancestors came from here. She said, when I was young, we'd fly low over the clouds and look at the stars together." Ray blinked. "You could fly?" She nodded. "My body was built for speed and survival in open air," she explained. "We were explorers once, not soldiers." Ray sat down, back against the cold wall. "How did your people become warriors then?" Her smile vanished. "We lost a war," she said. "Not with you long before humans even left their moon. We were taken, trained, used by other empires." Ray was silent, so was she for a long moment. Then she said, "But I remember the taste of cloud vapor, the feeling of wind rushing under my arms, the hum of my ship singing through space." Ray looked up at her, and in that moment, he didn't see a monster. He saw a girl who had everything taken from her. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked quietly. She looked into his eyes. "Because no one else ever asked what I remembered," she said. "They only asked what I destroyed." Ray felt his chest tighten. He pulled out his datapad again, recording everything she said. "Tell me more," he said. Nemesia pointed again at the star map. "This here," she said. "We called it the Blue Wall. Behind it was our homeworld Tamarine." Ray nodded slowly. "That's near the Perseus arm," he said. She looked impressed. "You know your stars." "I used to be a navigation tech before I got stuck fixing lights in toilets." He chuckled. Nemesia gave the smallest laugh. It was the first sound of joy he had ever heard from her. It didn't last long, but it made him smile. "I don't belong here," she whispered suddenly. "Not in this cell, not on this planet." "I know," Ray said, "but how do I prove it to them?" She lowered her gaze. "You can't," she said. "They don't want the truth. They want silence." Ray knew she was right. The military wanted her gone, not just because they feared her, but because if she lived, they'd have to answer for how they treated her, and they didn't want that. Ray looked at the glass wall between them, then at her face. She didn't look deadly or evil, just tired. "What if I got your voice out there?" he asked suddenly. "What if I shared your story with proof?" She looked at him for a long moment, then asked, "Would they believe it?" Ray stood up. "They don't have to believe it right away," he said. "But once they hear your voice, once they see your eyes, they won't forget." She nodded slowly. "Then start with the stars," she whispered. "Let them know I wasn't born in chains." As Ray turned to leave, Nemesia said one last thing. "Ray," he paused. "Yes?" "Thank you," she said. "Not for the food, not for the books, but for treating me like a person." Ray swallowed the lump in his throat and walked away. The steel doors slid closed behind him, and for the first time since the war, he felt like he had a purpose again. Ray Carter moved fast. His hands shook as he copied the recordings from his datapad to a private storage ship. It held hours of footage, Nemesia speaking about her world, her memories, her pain. It held her truth. He hid the chip under a panel behind the vent in his room. If anyone found it, he'd be arrested, maybe worse. The next morning, the base felt different. Too quiet, too clean, too controlled. As Ray walked through the upper levels, he noticed the soldiers stood straighter, eyes sharper, and there were more of them. In the command room, monitors flashed red every few seconds. Security sweeps, encrypted comms. Something was happening. Something big. Ray acted normal. He fixed a broken screen, replaced a fuse. But his mind was stuck on Nemesia, locked below ground. Like some forgotten thing. He had to do something, but before he could even return to his room, a voice called out. "Carter." He turned. It was Colonel Briggs, head of operations, cold eyes, thick mustache, medals that looked older than Ray's entire career. "Yes, sir?" Ray replied. "You've been spending a lot of time on sub-level 7. The colonel said. Ray forced a smile. "Maintenance requests, sir. Faulty systems down there." The colonel nodded. "Right," he said. "And have you spoken to the specimen?" Ray's throat tightened. He chose his words carefully. "Just brief interaction, sir." "She speaks sometimes." Colonel Briggs leaned closer. "She speaks lies, Carter," he said. "Don't let her fool you." Ray stayed silent. The colonel turned and walked away, but his voice echoed. "Stay in your lane, Carter. We don't need sympathy. We need silence." Ray knew then something bad was coming. Later that evening, Ray accessed a restricted system through an old trick he had learned years ago. A backdoor code used by engineers during emergencies. He scanned the base logs, communications, orders, security flags. Then he saw it. A termination protocol, scheduled for Nemesia, execution, 48 hours from now. Cause, threat to planetary security. His chest felt heavy. They weren't going to wait for proof. They weren't going to give her a trial. They were going to erase her. Quietly, Ray closed the file and wiped his trace. He stared at the screen, breath shallow. 48 hours. He had less than 2 days to save her. That night, he returned to her chamber. But this time, his hands were empty. No books, no food. She noticed. "What happened?" she asked. Ray pressed his forehead against the glass. "They've decided," he whispered. "You have 48 hours left." She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just nodded. "I knew it was coming," she said. "They never wanted to understand me. They only wanted to lock me away until people forgot." Ray sat down. "I can't let it happen," he said. "I've got a copy of your story, recordings, your voice, your truth." She looked at him. Hope flickered in her eyes. "And what will you do with it?" "Leak it," Ray said. "To the open networks, to journalists, to the unified council, to anyone who will listen." "It won't be enough," she said softly. "They'll deny it, call it fake." Ray nodded slowly. "Then I need to do more," he said. "I need to get you out." Nemesia stepped closer to the glass. "I don't want bloodshed," she said. "I don't want to hurt anyone, not even them." "I know," Ray said. "But if I don't act, they'll hurt you." For a moment they stood there, a human and an alien girl, a soldier of peace and a mechanic with no power. Yet somehow together, they had something stronger. Trust. Nemesia reached out. Placing her hand gently on the glass, Ray did the same. "Even if I die," she said, "I'm glad I met one human who saw me as more than a cage." Ray blinked back, the sting in his eyes. "You're not going to die," he said. "Not on my watch." She smiled faintly, then whispered, "Then you better hurry." Ray Carter. That night, Ray didn't sleep. He studied every blueprint of the facility, every maintenance shaft, every vent, every blind camera angle. He wasn't a soldier, but he had knowledge, and sometimes that was more powerful than weapons. He made a list. Cut power to Sector 7 cameras. Jam the door lock override. Create a distraction on the upper floor. It was dangerous. If he got caught, he'd be charged with treason. If he failed, Nemesia would die anyway. But if he succeeded, he'd save the one being the world had already thrown away. And somewhere deep in his heart, he knew this wasn't just about her anymore. This was about right and wrong, about truth and lies, about fear and humanity. The countdown had begun. 47 hours left, and the monster the world feared was waiting to be free. Ray Carter moved like a shadow. It was 2:17 a.m., and the base was quiet. Most of the soldiers were asleep or on light rotation, but the cameras never slept, and Ray knew which ones could still see. He wore a dark maintenance suit, face hidden under a cap. He held a small toolbox, not full of tools, but wires, fuses, a jammer, and one stolen keycard. This wasn't just about opening a door anymore. It was a war against time. 40 hours left. Maybe less if they moved the schedule. Ray reached the control hub near sub-level 6. Using the keycard, he slipped inside. No guards, just blinking screens and cold air. He placed the jammer under the table and activated it. All camera feeds in Sector 7 started glitching. A perfect distraction. Ray ran back to the elevator and entered a backup code. The doors opened without alarms, just as planned when he reached Sub-level 7. It was darker than usual, emergency lights only, casting long red shadows. He hurried to Nemesia's chamber. Her face appeared through the glass. Calm, but her eyes searched his face. She could feel something was about to change. Ray opened the side panel and typed in the override code. He had spent 2 nights cracking it. The system blinked once. Twice. Click. The glass door unlocked. Nemesia stood still. "I told you I didn't want violence," she said quietly. Ray nodded. "There won't be," he said. "But if we don't leave now, they'll erase you." She stepped forward. Her chains still around her wrists, Ray held out a small device. A magnetic cutter, slow but silent. He began slicing through the first lock. The air was thick with tension. Each second felt like a heartbeat. Each spark from the cutter felt like thunder. The first cuff fell, then the second. "You'll still need to hide your face," Ray said, handing her a long coat. She slipped it over her strange alien form, her silver hair tucked into a hood. They stepped into the hallway together. Nemesia walked slowly, not out of fear, but out of unfamiliar freedom. "This feels strange," she whispered. "Walking without chains." Ray looked at her. "You'll get used to it." They reached the emergency exit tunnel. Ray had rerouted its lock system an hour earlier, but as he reached for the panel, boom! A loud alarm rang across the base. Alert. Cell 7 GB eraser. Ray's heart sank. "Someone noticed," he said. "They moved faster than I thought." Footsteps echoed above. Voices shouted. Orders flew through radios. Nemesia looked at Ray. "Go," she said. "I can hold them back." Ray shook his head. "No," he said. "We're leaving together." He opened the panel, typed in the last code. Error. He tried again. Access denied. "They locked it remotely," he muttered. "We have to find another way." Gunfire echoed from above. The soldiers were close, too close. Ray grabbed her hand and pulled her toward a small side vent. He had planned this as a backup just in case. It was narrow, full of dust, not made for escape. But it was their only chance. They crawled through the vent. Nemesia's body barely fit her long limbs folded in strange angles. Ray heard boots hit the ground on sub-level 7. Shouts. "Cells empty." "They're in the vents." More alarms, more running. Ray crawled faster, hands bleeding, heart racing. At the end of the vent was a small shaft that led to the surface. A waste tunnel used for discarded parts. No cameras, no sensors, one chance. He kicked open the grate. Daylight poured in. A soft, gray dawn rising above the base. He climbed out and turned to help Nemesia. She struggled, but pushed forward until she tumbled out beside him. They were outside, free at least for the moment. But the sound of gunships roared overhead. The military wasn't going to let her go. Ray dragged her toward a hidden vehicle nearby. An old repair rover he had parked hours ago under fake orders. They jumped inside. He slammed the controls. The engine roared to life. The wheels spun, and the rover shot across the rocky ground. Behind them, soldiers poured from the base. Gunships moved in. Nemesia looked out the back window. She didn't speak. She just watched the place where she had been caged. Ray kept driving, eyes locked ahead. He had no exact plan, no destination. Only one goal: get her away from here. "We'll make it," he said, more to himself than her. "We have." To Nemesia finally spoke. "Even if we don't, Ray. You gave me something no one else did." "What's that?" he asked. She looked at him. "Choice. Asterisk." The rover sped across the rocky desert. Dust flew behind it, like smoke from a fire. Ray's hands gripped the wheel tightly. His heart thumped louder than the engine. Nemesia sat beside him, quiet, watching. The sky, she could feel them coming. Gunships, drones, orders screaming through the air. "They'll find us," she said softly. Ray didn't answer. He couldn't, not because he didn't want to, but because he knew she was right. He had broken every rule, freed an enemy, and now he was the enemy too, but he didn't care. Because deep down, he knew she didn't deserve that cage. She didn't deserve to die in silence. Not like that. "We're almost to the com tower," Ray finally said. "A small civilian relay station unguarded." Nemesia looked at him. "Why there?" Ray glanced at her. "I'll use it to broadcast your story," he said. "Your voice. Your truth across all networks. They can't kill you if the whole world is watching." She nodded slowly. It wasn't escape, but it was hope. They reached the tower just before the sun broke through the clouds. The metal frame stood tall, half broken, covered in rust, but it still worked barely. Ray climbed inside and opened the control panel. Wires dangled like dead vines. But he was an engineer. He had fixed worse. Nemesia stood watch outside. The wind tugged at her coat. Her red eyes scanned the horizon. Then she heard it. The distant thrum of engines. Gunships getting closer. "Ray," she called. "They're here." Ray didn't look up. "Just a few more minutes," he said, connecting the last wires. Inserted the data chip. Her recordings played in soft whispers through the speakers. Her voice telling of stars, of chains, of betrayal and peace. He pressed the red button. "Upload to all open civilian frequencies." The system blinked. Then a green light flashed. "Transmitting." Outside, the ground shook. A gunship landed just meters away. Soldiers poured out armed. Fast, cold. Nemesia raised her hands. She didn't run. She didn't fight. The soldiers formed a circle. Guns pointed at her chest. One of them shouted, "Drop to your knees." She didn't move. Instead, she said, "I'm not your enemy." Behind them, Ray appeared from the tower. "Wait," he shouted. "You live to 27 global feeds. Anything you do now, the world will see." The commander froze. A screen on his wrist blinked. He tapped it, and there it was, Nemesia's voice, playing across the net. "Citizens, diplomats, alien envoys, everyone was hearing her story in real time. Shut it down." The commander barked. "We can't," one soldier muttered. "It's bouncing between stations." "We can't block it all." Ray stepped in front of Nemesia. "If you shoot her now, you'll prove everything she said," he warned. "You'll show the world what kind of monsters you are." The guns wavered. Fingers shook on triggers. No one fired. Then from above, a sniper shot. Crack. Nemesia moved faster than human eyes could follow. She shoved Ray to the ground. The bullet hit her shoulder. She stumbled, glowing blood dripping down her arm. Ray screamed, "No!" The soldiers froze. Even the commander looked stunned. Nemesia didn't fight back. She knelt beside Ray, whispering, "Are you hurt?" He stared at her, bleeding. You saved me." "I told you," she said. "I don't want to harm anyone, not even now." The commander raised a hand. "Stand down," he ordered. "No more shots." The soldiers lowered their weapons, confused, not because of fear, but because they didn't know what to believe anymore. Behind them, more gunships landed. But this time, a different banner flew. The Unified Planetary Council. Diplomats, journalists, alien peace officers stepped out. They had seen the broadcast. They came fast. Too fast for the military to cover it up. A tall woman in blue stepped forward. She held up a scanner, pointed it at Nemesia. "She's injured," she said. "We'll take her now." The commander hesitated, but he knew it was over. He nodded. Ray knelt beside Nemesia as she lay down on a stretcher. She grabbed his hand weakly. "Did it work?" she asked. Ray smiled through tears. "Yes," he said. "They saw you, and in that moment, the world began to question the lie it had believed for so long, because the monster they feared was never real. The only monster was what they tried to make her become." 3 days had passed since the broadcast shook the galaxy. 3 days since Ray Carter stood in front of guns to protect the girl they once called a monster. 3 days since the truth was finally seen. The media called it the Day of Eyes, because the whole world saw something they were never meant to see. A prisoner with red eyes and glowing blood, choosing mercy over revenge. A mechanic choosing truth over safety. Ray sat on a bench outside the medical chamber. His clothes were dirty, hands bruised, but he had never felt more alive. Inside, Nemesia lay on a healing bed, her shoulder bandaged. She was stable, alive, free for the first time in years. The council had declared an investigation into her capture. They froze the military's authority over alien prisoners, and more voices joined calling her not a monster, but a victim. Ray heard footsteps. A diplomat approached, tall, clean, holding a data pad. "She's recovering well," the diplomat said. "She asked for you." Ray stood without a word and walked in. The room was quiet, filled with soft lights and a steady pulse of machines. Nemesia looked up. Her eyes still glowed faintly, but her face was peaceful. Ray walked to her side. She smiled. "You're still alive," she whispered playfully. He chuckled. "You too." She looked around. "This place is warm." "It's a council station," Ray said. "They treat guests better than prisoners." She turned her head slowly. "Am I a guest now?" Ray paused, then said, "You're not a monster, you're not a prisoner, you're just you." She looked at him with soft wonder. "Do you know," she said, "I used to dream of flying again. Not to escape, just to feel the wind again." Ray pulled something from his pocket. It was a small crystal silver blue, the kind used in navigation corps. Nemesia stared at it, her eyes wide. "Where did you get this?" Ray smiled. "Back when I was a tech, I saved old ship parts. Just in case. I thought maybe one day you'd need it." She took the crystal in her fingers. "I can build again," she whispered. "I can fly again." Ray nodded. "You have friends now. People who believe you, people who want to help." She looked at him with deep emotion. "You gave me more than help," she said. "You gave me my name back." Ray didn't speak. He didn't need to. Then Nemesia asked, "What will you do now?" He shrugged. "I don't know," he said. "I can't go back to Earth, not after what I did." She sat up slowly. "Then come with me," she said. "Where?" he asked. She smiled. "To the stars." Ray blinked. "You're serious?" "I want to see my home again," she said. "But I don't want to go alone." He thought about the base, the silence, the chains, the lies. Then he looked at her. "Strong, kind, alive, I'm in," he said with a nod. "Let's build a ship." Months passed. Together, they rebuilt an old freighter found drifting near the asteroid belts. Ray handled the repairs. Nemesia handled the engines. And together, they charted a course, not just to her world, but to freedom. Before they left, a crowd gathered. Reporters, children, council members, soldiers, some who once feared her, but now they stood to honor her. Nemesia stepped onto the ship ramp and looked at them. She didn't speak. She just raised her hand in a peaceful gesture, and they all clapped. Ray stood beside her, not as her rescuer, not as her protector, but as her equal inside the ship. She touched a button. The engines lit up with blue light, and slowly the vessel rose into the sky. The stars opened above them, bright, endless, welcoming. Ray looked at her and asked, "Are you ready?" Nemesia turned to him. "I've been ready for years," she said. "But I had no one to believe in me." He smiled. "You have me now." As the ship broke through the clouds, the cameras below kept recording, but the galaxy didn't see a monster escaping. They saw a survivor soaring, and from that day forward, Her name was no longer whispered in fear, but in hope, in schools, in stories, in peace meetings, as the alien girl who was never a monster. She was a mirror, and Ray, Carter, he was the human brave enough to look in and say, "I see you."